Hey man, good video, happy to clarify. So you made a joke about quantum literary analysis, and weirdly enough, my professor in college actually described literary analysis with a similar metaphor. So literary analysis is the act of giving a reading, and the reading that you have is going to change based on who you are, where you're from, what time period you're in, so on and so forth. So that means, yes, someone can read Harry Potter and not find transphobic elements in it. Someone else can read Harry Potter and find transphobic elements in it. Someone several generations down the line may not understand any of the readings that we're having now. And similarly, readings that we have now of literature that was written in the past will differ from the contemporary readings that were had when that was first published. And it's a big practice of English literature to understand why those readings came about, why certain readings of Victorian literature were how they were as opposed to the readings we have today. And that, I think, is something that people don't particularly get about literary analysis. It's not and never has been about a reading being right. It's about understanding how the conclusion of the reading came about. So if someone, say 200 years from now, goes back and sees a reading, sees a paper or something about Harry Potter being transphobic, they're going to learn things about that. They're going to learn about what it was like during the struggle for trans rights in the early 2000s. They're going to learn about what an influence that J.K. Rowling had in the early 2000s on basically fantasy literature in general. They're going to learn a lot of tangential stuff connected to that reading. And then in the process of learning that, they're going to learn how someone can come to the conclusion of there are transphobic elements in Harry Potter. And that will teach them a lot about other sorts of literature, other sorts of fantasy literature that were sort of derivatives and spin-offs, other literature that was very pro-LGBTQ at the time. Similarly, if you went back and looked at a reading that said Harry Potter was not transphobic, then you'd end up looking into the reasons why. You can compare and contrast it to other big works, like Dune, which is big right now, and you could say, well, is Dune Islamophobic? And then that will teach you more things about the era that we're in, the type of literature that's being created now, so on and so forth. The goal is never to have one definitive reading. The goal is to allow multiple readings and multiple interpretations bring you to a greater understanding of the text and the time period it was written in. There is never going to be one reading that is correct. And Death of the Author basically says that the author is not allowed to say there's a reading that's correct either.